I think we can make a start. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yannis Anagnostopoulos. I work for the Health Research Authority, and my good colleagues Agata and Peter will be supporting me in this hopefully interesting session on project management. Let me first use this opportunity and ask Agata and Peter to introduce themselves.
Good. So my name is Agata, and I currently work as a project support manager at Primary Care 24 in Liverpool, and I've got over 15 years experience in delivering different projects.
Hi, and I'm Peter Swan. I'm a project officer working with HEE in the Midlands, and I have about 2 years experience doing project management stuff.
Fantastic. So the purpose of this meeting is basically to use it as an opportunity to network and discuss and talk about project management, what for you people think it is, what it means, what the challenges are, and so we very much encourage you to be very active as much as possible, either through the camera or through the chat box. An opportunity to exchange viewpoints on project management, network. We will share some available resources and try to raise the awareness and the interest on what the NHS Project Futures initiative is trying to do, which is basically bring together the community of project professionals within the NHS. So it's basically an opportunity for everyone in this session to, as much as possible, interact with each other and get to know each other and exchange viewpoints. I do encourage everyone to be as active as possible, and feel free to communicate in any way that you see fit.
Yeah, and we would like to ask you also to maybe introduce yourselves in the chat box as well, because it's a networking session, or maybe there's someone of you who would like to introduce themselves, like right now, maybe? If not, you can put your introduction to the chat box.
Hi, Dolores.
Hi, I'll go first. I'm Dolores Agathinikoshi. I'm a project manager within HEE. I started as a project manager in January of this year. I'm hoping to take up one of the apprenticeship courses later in the year, and thought that this was probably a good way to kind of meet other people who are the same as me in the early stages, or who are proficient in project management, so looking to create a tribe, as they say, and connect with others. So thank you for having me.
Thank
Hello.
you. Samantha?
Thank you. Yeah, I thought I'd join in the introduction as well. My name's Samantha Brown. I'm a project manager in the Midlands Workforce Transformation team. I've been in that role for 5 months. Before that, for 3 years, I had a different management role in here. I was an account manager for the faculty support team. So I found I used some of the project management skills, but wanted to really get back into it, because some years ago I was a project manager in the Learning and Skills Council, which has since disbanded, and managed a number of large-scale learning projects there. So I've sort of come back to the professional side of the profession recently, so looking to connect with other people and tap into tools that can help me really get back to that professionalized side of it, as well as just reacting and doing the job as it needs to be done, making sure I'm actually taking a structured and strategic approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Christine?
Hello, Agata and Yannis. Yeah, just wanted to welcome everyone really to Project Futures. So many new names on here. I'm the Programme Administrator for Project Futures and work in Leeds normally at the portfolio office there, but just wanted to say welcome, and it's going to be a great session, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christine. Yes, so yeah, that's it. If there's
Great.
Yeah.
So since it's a session focused on project management, and to kickstart the conversation, I thought of reminding ourselves perhaps, or kickstart the discussion with what, formally speaking, project management is. So I thought of sharing with you the formally accepted definition of a project or project management. And in reality, I wanted to, start hearing your viewpoints on what basically, it means to you, what you understand by, saying project management is function or, a profession within your organization. In reality, an opportunity to address, you in terms of what you understand that it is, how it is offering, added value within your organization, and whether you think that it's actually being done well or not. In order to make a bit more kind of interactive, Peter has kindly offered to do like a quick poll. So Peter, if you're able to provide us with a poll in the chat.
Yeah, it should be showing up on your screens. There we go. Just as a reminder that this poll is entirely anonymous, so don't feel bad about bad-mouthing your organisation. We won't know it's you.
So let's give it a couple of minutes to see what people think, and then we can take it on from there. I can see some very encouraging results at the moment, so that's good.
Yeah, it looks like the majority of us seem to think our organisations do project management pretty well, which is, as you say, it's very encouraging. I still think it certainly looks like most of us agree that our organisations could still do with a bit of growth in that area, though. So definitely areas of development that we can look for.
Great. Yes. So I can see that approximately more than 55% of you, so more than half of the attendants think that is being done, in a pretty well way. I was thinking, like, in terms of your responses, people who have answered that they think that is being done well or very well, what would the particular kind of key points and highlights be in terms of giving this answer? Where do you personally think that the strengths lie in the application of project management within your organization? Any thoughts or ideas?
Have we got anyone that wants to step in?
Yeah, you can always use the chat box.
Yeah, I suppose the question really is, isn't it, for those of us who said that our organisations do project management well, what is it about the organisation that led you to that decision? What is it about an organisation that makes it good at project management? Is it support, or is it resourcing, or what do we think?
I can see a hand up, Samantha, and I can see some activity, the chat box. Samantha, yes.
I said I thought that our organisation, which is HE, did it well. I think that there are some things in place that help us all to be good project managers. So there is good support, there is mentoring available. If you approach people and ask, people are more than willing to speak to you about things, to share ideas, to share documents. I think we have a number of systems and processes in place that can support good project management. I do think where we could improve is that sometimes there is sort of duplication between them. Like we might have a system PM3 that some teams are logging projects on and using those to track deliverables, whereas other teams aren't. So therefore we're asked to do separate trackers to essentially track the same thing via a different method. So those are areas that could be improved, but I would still say that I think overall it's done well.
So you're almost describing like an organization you're walking in of a relatively high maturity, but you're saying that there is like room for improvement. I'm gonna focus on something that you mentioned. Are other people using like specialized PM software? I think Samantha, you mentioned the PM3 system, and do people feel that this is something that is actually enhancing the project management practice within their organization? Is it something that can easily be adopted either by project and program management professionals and other staff as well? What are your thoughts on that? Because I do think that you've mentioned like some really key points there, Samantha, around the support that is needed within an organization, to enable as a function project management to offer added value. Mentoring as well, you mentioned, which is personally something that, to be honest, I haven't necessarily seen in too many organizations. I don't know what people's thoughts are on that. And of course, Peter and Agatha, you're more than welcome to share your experiences as well and your thoughts on that. Mike.
Thanks, Yanis. Yeah, for what it's, I work at HE as well. I've done for 3.5 years, worked in the NHS about 10 years. And in that time, I've learned a lot. I think culture and actually feeling psychologically safe about making mistakes, doing things wrong is an acceptable thing. And I think often we're scared. I'm happy to admit I am scared occasionally on things that I'm doing in case I do look like a fool or make a mistake, or people think, oh, Mike Gray doesn't know what he's talking about. So I think there's part of that comes from kind of the top, and it comes from having a good culture, one that's trusting and has all those kind of psychological aspects into project management. Because you can teach people project management, but it's the behaviors, it's the culture, it's the invisible things that we don't see that make the difference. And that's for those that are coming in new and those that have been in it for years. So yeah, I think it's it's complex, but those are my thoughts.
Great, fantastic. And is it something that it is widely accepted at the senior management or at the senior leadership team level? So is there like I suppose in many organizations there's a head of profession, but if we're talking at even at a board level, is there like someone representing the function there? The reason I'm asking that is because I have come across personally situations where project management is almost being seen as a admin for / support function for various other functions. If we're talking about an NHS trust, obviously support function to the clinical services. If we're talking about other NHS organizations, like a generic kind of support function for, I don't know, finance. So you do come across in situations where it's almost a team within another directorate or department, right? Which won't necessarily have the job, the title as project management function or whatever. It would actually sit within finance or in a generic corporate governance department, division, directorate. What are people's experiences of that? So I suppose this almost gives an indication of how much is recognized in terms of a standalone profession, and in terms of the added value that is bringing to an organization in terms of helping hopefully bringing into a successful kind of completion change initiatives. What are people's experiences and thoughts on that?
Well, it's interesting what you say, Yanis, because in my organizations, I'm working in a rather small organization. So interesting bit is that we are, as a PMO team, which is very small as well, we are recognized at the board level, at the executive level. We work in finance, we're part of finance team. So we've got a good representation in a board. But the problem with understanding what project management is, what PMO is, there's a problem with understanding on the lower level. So it is really important for us to get to the people with our message, or what do we do, how do we do it, that we are not like the additional admin team, that we are something more, that we are there to help them, not to make their lives harder or their work more onerous. So it's for us to just cascade this information to the to the broader audience, not to the senior levels, but to our colleagues. Yeah. So that's how it works in my organization. This is the challenge that we are having right now. Yeah.
Dolores, I've seen Mike, you've had your hand first, but ladies first.
Thank you, Yanis. I was just going to say, I think it's very similar to what Agatha's just said, but in HE, what I found as being a new project manager is that I'm faced with quite a lot of challenges in terms of the hierarchy of who's on a project with you. And sometimes being the newbie in the team who might be leading the project or providing project support, it doesn't always feel as if your voice is heard because of the fact you've got that, as some people might see, a lack of experience. So without having that experience, they don't feel that you're knowledgeable enough when you want to add in content. So I've been on a small project and I've been on 2 large projects. And from my experience, I feel as if we haven't got it right. So I don't think that for me personally, being new into it, I don't think we've got it right in terms of we don't have a consistent approach. I know that every project will be handled differently. You won't apply the same methodologies. But I think some of the actual concept of when you're bringing a project or considering a project being brought about, it's about how you start it. If you start it wrong, and you don't have the right people around the table for that added content, for the discussion to add to some of the methodology, then your project's kind of set up to fail. And I've been on 3 projects in very quick succession where they haven't started well. You haven't got the right people around the table, and you're literally fighting to figure out who's doing what role, who's playing what in terms of escalating processes, how you then change where you are with something in the middle of it. So it's very hard to kind of adapt what I've learned in my learning process from project management and bringing that to the table and actually being, I suppose, comfortable and confident to actually speak a little bit louder, to actually say, I think we've got it wrong. And before we carry on, this is, an idea that I'm thinking about, something I've seen somewhere else, something that somebody else has applied. And I think it's having that buy-in. So I think what Samantha said earlier about having the right kind of coach or mentor to help you as a project manager, whether you're new to it or whether you've been in it for a number of years, I think that will actually carry a bit more weight. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to see changing and adopting within HE especially. I think it will add value to what we do and what we create in terms of output and delivery. So that's just my thoughts.
No, definitely. I mean, get it right first time, basically. This is what you're saying. It's really important, to start on the right track. Mike, I know that you had your hand up.
No, that's fine. I was just to add to what Dolores said, actually. There's this attitude in the NHS that still exists, which is just get on and do it. Just get on. We know we've got pressures, we've got timelines, everything's interdependent. So when you think about that systemic view, I'll give you an example. So I live in Leeds. You've got 2 trusts, Leeds Teaching Hospital and Mid York's 20 minutes from each other, yet they could be in different countries the way they do project management. Their appetite, their investment, their skills, the way they report, but they deal with the same thing, which is getting a patient back with their loved ones, safe and well. But the way they actually implement it and carry out things is very different. Yes, that's maturity. Yes, it's, yes, we do. We will champion project management. It's part of that as well. But I think each and every one of us has a small part to play. And as Dolores described, challenging is good. It's healthy. It's something we need to do more of, and challenge people back on the way that we do things. Because if we continue, you know, I was watching the news last night about the NHS. We're not getting enough money. The 5.4 billion that they promised is not enough. And so we're all going to feel this, whether we're in HE or whether we're frontline based, it's going to impact us in some way. So I think, you know, collectively we can have a voice, and challenging back is one thing we can do, and you know, I support that.
Great. So I'll take this opportunity from both what Mike and Dolores mentioned, which basically I think it's summing up to the fact that it is difficult, and there are like some very real challenges on, you know, getting the best out of, you know, project management as a function, as a profession from the people actually applying it. And again, we thought of creating like a second, last one, mini poll, which again, it might kind of help us, you know, further discuss on what people think are specific challenges, and potentially vice versa. What would be critical success factors for, you know, being able and managing to get even more and get the best out of project management as a function. So, Peter, I don't know if you could actually learn the second poll.
Yep. So the answers here are just suggestions. If you've got something in mind that you particularly think answers the question, then we'd love to hear about it in the chat. So don't feel limited just because Teams only lets me put 6 answers in a poll.
Finances were definitely mentioned by Mike, so yeah. Let's give it a go and see what people think. At the moment, I don't see any particular, and as Peter mentioned, these are just indicative, let's say, categories or groups. It was, the intention was basically, you know, to use it to, you know, to continue and have a conversation on that. But I cannot see at the moment any particular kind of category standing out. Let's see. Let's wait for a minute or so to see what people think.
Yeah, it looks like everybody's kind of in agreement that there's quite a wide range of possible stumbling blocks in terms of developing an organization's ability to do project management. Though it looks like the fundamental understanding isn't something that's an immediate crisis, which is good to see.
Definitely encouraging.
Yeah.
So it seems that governance and change management and stakeholder management seem to be the two predominant areas where people think that there are challenges around. I would definitely second the governance. So that was one of my answers as well. Challenge. So personally, yeah, I have come across situations, and I think it relates somehow back to Dolores' point, like, you know, have the fundamentals in place. If you haven't got, you know, the right kind of team structure, the right arrangements in terms of being able to work in a matrix type of collaboration. You're not setting off on the right kind of track, but what are people's experience of that? I mean, I would like to hear from people's experience situations, whether in the past or in the current role, where they have particularly struggled and have found it really difficult to address some aspects of good project management. What are people's thoughts on that? Agatha, you might want to make a start.
Yes, of course. So, well, as any one of you, probably I am like facing some challenges, especially right now. So, and it's around governance. So we have just finished one of the big programs. We delivered a huge program, huge change program within our organization. It was successful, and we had everyone on board, and everyone was like, cooperating. But now we came to a point we've got another program to deliver, and it seems like people are pretty much exhausted right now. When we tried to, for example, like implement the same governance process like with the previous program, it didn't work. So it's pretty much like we are unable to I understand we need to treat each project like differently, and we need to like tailor our methodologies to the particular project. But sometimes it is hard when you can't get people on board because of different priorities and different challenges that they are facing. But I think that one of the biggest problems is to take people along, and it's hard to convince people that change sometimes is good for them. It's not because they don't want to do it, but sometimes it's hard because of different priorities. So this is the problem that I'm facing right now. I am pretty much like stuck in one place, and I am unable to move one project forward because of different priorities and different challenges that we are facing in our organization, low staffing levels and things like that. So so my point is that maybe sometimes even if we do have some things, we've got methodology in place and it works, it's not always like suitable for each project, and it holds us back. So we need to find out different solutions, and this is life. Each project is different, even the same organization, it is always different. Yeah, so this is like a hot challenge from my organization right now. Yeah.
Mike.
Sorry, if I'm hogging the limelight today. So I am capability and resourcing manager for HEE, and some of I actually clicked on skills and training has been a kind of challenge for me at the moment, because historically the NHS has a lot of underspend kicking around, kind of February, March, April. That's when people just say, right, quick, we need to get everyone on training as quickly as possible, get as many as we can on there, so we've got this money used up. And so that it's almost like learning and development and our skills and abilities are always a kind of something that's done, it's like an afterthought. It's like you sup it and then you finish and that's it, you move on. It's kind of not really planned. There's a lack of preparation and thought that goes into it. So for me, I think what we're discussing today throughout all the sessions, and today's an example of it, is sharing the learning is one way of just keeping our skills up to date and relevant, and also just sharing some of the pain that we go through on a day-to-day basis. Is another thing, and I'll be talking about apprenticeships later, so get yourselves there. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Dolores.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about a project I'm currently on, and I guess I'll ask experienced people from within this room. When do you feel that a project has moved from a project into a program, and how can you ensure that the people who are part of the original project realise that the project has now changed into something that needs to be worked through a larger work stream with a lot more subject matter experts on it? So I'm finding that a bit of a challenge at the moment, because I'm trying to transition from being part of a project team, and I'm kind of being dragged into what is now a program management team, which is not what I do, not what I'm experienced in, and certainly don't have the right skills and abilities, I don't feel, to be able to be part of that journey. If there is a short-term, immediate kind of involvement that is needed from the original project team to kind of do a transitional period with the new program management team, I can understand that. So I think from what Mike was just saying about training, I think some people, i.e., and I will say it's probably senior managers, probably aren't that knowledgeable about what projects and project management is, and it's about changing their behaviours, but also giving them the intuitive kind of knowledge that they are lacking. And it's not good that a project manager can see that they don't have that understanding. And so you're kind of being dragged on to something else, and it's not really helpful for you or for that next phase of the project or program management. And it's how do you adopt that in? And there's nobody around the table that you can kind of get to kind of see it other than the other people who are on the project team with you. But because of the fact that, you know, the senior managers have said, well, actually, you've been really good on the project, I'd really like you to stay with phase 2, and you're thinking, yeah, but phase 2 is not really about me. How do you kind of opt out, but opt out in an appropriate way? So that's what I'm finding a little bit of a challenge on one of the projects I'm on at the moment. And I guess that kind of makes me feel that there are some definite training skills that are required for other people that are on that journey. And I just don't know how to kind of influence that. So I'm kind of using this as a stepping stone, really, to kind of tease that out from others, and whether you've been in a similar situation and how do you kind of transition from one to the other, because they're not the same, definitely not the same.
No, you're absolutely right, Dolores, and it's something that I have personally encountered. So in reality, and you know, this is where the capability framework that Mike talked about is giving, like, you know, an insight. There need to be like slightly different skill sets, you know, and the notion of and the concept of a portfolio of a program and a project, even though they are interrelated, you know, useful tools in reality, you know, to try and deliver a change initiative, they're not exactly the same. Personally, to be honest, I haven't encountered too many people like having it clearly distinct in their mind, even if we're talking about very senior people, simply because it goes back to the training that I think both of you kind of mentioned. So definitely I have come across, you know, several occasions where someone who was a very adept and good project manager, as you said, like, you know, was being asked to move to the next level, you know, managing a program where, you know, the focus is much more on benefits and, you know, change management. There are specific roles there. The role of a change manager that needs to go hand in hand with a program manager to actually, you know, after you deliver the change, actually making sure that it sticks within the business. Personally, that's something that I find the most challenging. And I think that from, you know, my NHS experience is something that we're not necessarily doing very well. But I totally, you know, I totally echo what you're saying, that there are like subtle differences between the three different levels, so that need to be backed up by suitably skilled, you know, people performing these levels, which, you know, in theory increase your probability of success for delivering whatever outcomes, outputs, and ultimately benefits you're trying to deliver. But I spotted a very, very interesting comment in the chat, the transition to project leadership. So from Gordon, I think. I'm keen to answer what exactly do we mean by that. I would like to, you know, to, if possible, to elaborate a bit on that, because project leadership, as I'm thinking about it, it's not necessarily something that I have come across, you know, even as a word within NHS organizations. So, Gordon, may I ask you to elaborate a bit on that, on this very interesting comment of yours?
Sure. I'm not sure if you were able to listen to my talk a bit earlier, Johannes, and for those who have, I'm keen not to be in this session to grandstand and push my point too hard, but essentially I want to be here for you guys and maybe bring in, where appropriate, some perspective from where I work at Sellafield in terms of the structures and organisation we have, training and so on, to support the project delivery organisation, its structures and processes. But the short answer to your question is that I discovered in writing this book for the APM that the function of the project manager in today's organisational environment, where organisation structures have changed, means that the project manager usually has very little, if any, line authority to manage, to tell people what to do. So the frustrations I picked up from Dolores and others is about, you know what you need to do, you know what you want to do, but you cannot walk into an environment with the authority to manage. And that really throws it all back on the ability to deploy leadership skills of securing the engagement of others, winning them over, establishing rapport towards collaboration. However, as my second comment about the executive support for the function and its ethos was there to demonstrate, you really do need a vision set at the organisational level, so that when you go to enter into that conversation, there's some sense that there is an organisational support that's on your side and requiring, to some extent, the other person to engage seriously with you, rather than brushing you off as not important or not of a senior enough level, or you've not got enough clout with your title.
Fantastic, great. So are we in essence talking about the rise of soft skills over hard skills? Is this something that you're almost trying to describe? Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch your presentation. I will definitely do. And I think it's something that is definitely in the radar of the community, especially with all these agile type of delivery and, and the concepts and notions like servant leadership, for example, which, you wouldn't necessarily encounter into traditional project or program management methodologies. Do come across a lot. So I think, yeah, you definitely made a point there in terms of securing that buy-in in situations where you're not necessarily having a, formal authority, but you need to somehow persuade people, to do their best in order, for the project or the program manager to be able to do their best as well. So yeah, really, really valid and interesting comment there, Gordon. Thank you. What do other people think in terms of challenges and what we're discussing here? Any other thoughts or ideas, personal, let's say, frustrations or challenges that they have or that they are encountering where they're trying to perform in a project or program, let's say, function or role? Hi, Tola.
Yeah, hi. And thank you. I've just been listening and absorbing what everybody has been saying, because I didn't get to introduce myself earlier because my role is kind of slightly hybrid, in the sense that I'm a commissioning officer and within HEE, and my role is kind of, I manage projects and I also support, so it's like a hybrid role. And also because we work through the commissioning cycle, supporting other programs, so it's kind of that matrix working as well, and sort of partnership, sort of project management work, so it's quite different from a straightforward sort of project managing projects. But I think one of the things I've observed in my current role is sort of 80% stakeholder management. So it's kind of sort of echoing what is being said around. And when I say stakeholders, I mean, senior to me in my role, and things like that. So it's been a lot of engaging and stakeholder management. And I think it's quite a great tool in the sense that if you need to influence, because I think one of the things, I have a very good, in fact, a lovely team, and I say that carefully, that I'm so privileged. I feel so privileged to be within my team because we encourage growth. And like, I think I met your talk this morning, Halfway Garden, and I remember you talking about empowering and engaging. And I tell you, my team is all about empowering us to speak up and to engage and to sort of showcase our skills. So I like to say that, it's not so much about what your band is or what's your, but the main thing is just ensure you're managing that stakeholder, influencing that stakeholder, and by doing so, you would be able to actually encourage them to do follow the direction you want them to go to eventually. Sometimes it takes time, sometimes it takes going back and forth, because some of our commissions, there's a lot of back and forth, and we need to ensure that everybody agrees and everybody is carried along. But I think one of the things I put in there is that, and I think this is generally in HE, we need to sort of work on governance as well, because especially where we have metrics working, sometimes that's getting that directive of who signs off what and how can we move forward with this and so on. It can be sometimes tricky. So that's kind of my experience, but I'm still quite new in HE and I'm enjoying it, and I'm sort of willing to learn, more about how to, manage stakeholders and ensure that we're delivering, at the right time. But I think generally we are delivering well. We are the people management side of things is good. It's just the processes that we need to just put in place to ensure that performance is great as well. From a commissioning point of view, I'd say, because my team is quite fairly new as well. We are delivering, and and I'm learning. I just hope I've helped anyone there, but I really seriously think that it's all about stakeholder management, because they say nobody cares what you know unless they know you care about what they have to say, something like that. So it's all about listening, and I can say so much about my team, but that's where I am at the moment. I hope I've helped anyone or I've contributed well, but it's nice to actually learn from every one of you here.
Great, thank you. And actually, let me take this opportunity from the things you mentioned, Tola. What the question just came to my mind. If we were to say what's the ideal balance between hard skills and soft skills, especially since, as Gordon said, getting that buying and that kind of leadership kind of skills out there is really important. What do people think? Is it like a 50-50? Is it like a 30-70? Obviously, I'm not expecting that there's a right or a wrong answer, but Gordon, again, if I may take the opportunity, from APM's perspective, is there any sort of survey or research? I'm aware that there's a body of knowledge which is touching on the various aspects and elements that a project manager, or if you go to the higher level, a program manager, portfolio manager, needs to address one way or another. And I would assume that, as I might be wrong, that as you're moving into higher levels, the human or the soft skills element becomes more critical. But what do people think? And again, Gordon, without putting you again on the spot, is there any research on that? Because at the end of the day, I'm thinking hard skills can be taught one way or another. The soft skills, I suppose, there's a personality and character element that will always come into play. So I'm really interested to hear thoughts and ideas on that.
Okay, I guess you're just verging on opening Pandora's box with this. It is definitely the case that there is some people have more empathy than others. Without empathy, tending towards the narcissistic end of the spectrum. There are people who undoubtedly aspire, for all kinds of reasons, to positions of authority and power to exert command and control over others because of their own inbuilt insecurities. I'm catching a lot in as densely as I can there. So within the research I've done, it is definitely the case that amongst the population of project managers at the moment, there is that proportion of those that do not recognise, in fact, are fearful of the rise of people pushing the kind of thing that I'm pushing, which is the move towards the soft skills. To answer another part of your question, is this definitely the case that some projects would require a greater level of technical knowledge and competence depending on what's being delivered. However, increasingly, as I was talking about earlier, the function of the project leader in this context doesn't need them to make technical skills. More often than not, the project leader is sat surrounded by subject matter experts in their respective disciplines. And what the project leader is doing, and I guess there's an element of assurance and governance in this as well, is making sure that everybody's talking to each other, that we're arriving at an informed consensus about the way forward. So the project leader is a catalyst, a facilitator, as it were. Servant leadership is definitely not subservient. I'm not throwing assertiveness out the door completely and forever. As everybody knows, you have to be able to say no sometimes. The line, you're going over the line. I talked about the Tuckman forming, storming, norming development curve of teams, and a good facilitator will sit back and let some of that storming go on, but there's a line that shouldn't be crossed in terms of the way people are relating and treating, talking to each other. So the answer to the question, I think, is that for me, and I'm not employed by the APM, I'm not on a commission, but for me, a big step was doing the APM PMQ, Project Management Qualification, because it familiarises one with the technology and the concepts, which are the common currency in language amongst those who are delivering projects for a living. And as such, if you've got that, it then opens up the kinds of conversations that you need to be having to hold the course throughout project delivery with regards to all the disciplines. And if I need a particular technical expert to be brought in, then I can do that, to have that particular kind of conversation. I hope that goes somewhere towards answering the question.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I think, you know, as you highlighted, you know, you can always, and you are able to get that expertise through a subject matter expert. So I think you're almost describing, and I totally agree with you, depending on the nature of a project, you know, some projects by their own, you know, nature, they're very technical, and, you know, the technical element will somehow dominate in a way, you know, over other elements. But I think, especially, I mean, that's my personal thinking, in terms of the new normal, if we may call it so, remote working, the ability to engage and bring on board people will gradually become more important than it already is. And again, I mean, what do people think? Is it something that you feel in your organization? I mean, I was really kind of it grabbed my attention, project leadership. I'm wondering, have people actually encountered in their organization or from their past experience someone that they would think of, you know, this person is actually a project leader, this person is someone that not only I kind of I admire him because of his technical skills or whatever, but this person is someone that I would like to become like. Have people come across such situations or such occasions in the NHS? I'm wondering.
His or her skills. I have Joe Stanford. Joe, definitely, who heads up the HE portfolio office. She's someone, in fact, I took the job because of Joe. I took a financial drop. My wife was terrified because she thought we wouldn't be able to pay the mortgage and take the kids to tennis or whatever, you know. But I believed in what she stood for, and I believed in her values and the vision she had, which we're creating currently. So for me, yeah, definitely Joe. She's she's a woman in project management for one, which is traditionally a white male dominated, you know, profession. So Jo's taking it on, and for me, I aspire to that. And she gives leadership and accountability to each and every one of us, and allows us to develop the role and make it our own, and put our own stamp on it. And you know, for me, that's true leadership. It's leadership without, it's kind of it's visible leadership, but it's also, she gets to know who we are. So she knows who I am and what makes me think and what makes me get up on a morning. And she knows other people in the team that think differently, but she understands them. So when it comes to looking at work and skills, and oh yeah, Mike loves chatting to people, he can do that because she knows I enjoy doing it. So she tries to do more of the things we're passionate about, and that's what good leadership is for me.
Great. Dolores?
Yeah, I echo what Mike's saying. I suppose Jo is definitely probably the only person I know who is a good person to look at in terms of project management leadership. Jo's giving me career coaching, and I know that that's not an easy task for her to take on, because she's got many people who she's offering the same opportunity to. And I think what is probably lacking in the project profession, in my view, is having a platform where you have got those individuals who you can go to. So I think that's something I'd like to see being developed, getting a database put together of different people who work in different organisations, so that you can start sharing your experiences and learning from others, and actually seeking out support, because I think that's one of the things that will help people overcome their resistance to dive into getting into project management. And I think we see that across the community in terms of people from different backgrounds, whether it be from, from a BAME background, or whether it's from a women's point of view. Not many women I know that are project managers, because it is kind of sometimes geared as a male orientated environment. So I think that's where we probably need to grow a little bit more. But Jo is definitely somebody I would echo from within HE that I know of, that is a very good project leader. Thank you.
Great. I can see many hands, so I don't remember. Was it you, Tola, who had your first hand up? And
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was just going to echo what Micah and Dolores have said. Yeah, definitely Jo. Great leadership in project management. And the only other thing that I'd also like to add is the fact that sometimes when you come into an organization, you might not really know, especially in an organization as big as HE, where I'm proud to say I work at the moment, and sometimes it might have to be that your leadership that will connect you to that person that you can look up to, because that's the case. That was what happened to me. In my case, I have a very good SRO, I'm a senior manager, and Adam, who actually connected me with Jo, and thankfully Jo has been sort of helping to guide me in my journey in developing myself in project management, and all other stuff in terms of my personal development. So I think it's also very important if we have those managers that can actually connect us with those other people that we can look up to, that we might not necessarily see with our own view because of where we are working, but they are connected to. So yeah, but yeah, definitely Jo within my organization.
thanks, Tola. Gordon, I think you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, I completely endorse what Dolores and Tola were saying as well. That, well, in Sellafield, for example, we actually have a whole system whereby every project manager is expected to have a coach stroke mentor being a bit more the directive, coach, facilitative. Another thing I'll just throw into the mix is that I genuinely think that many women that are moving into project management, and I know some fantastic ones at Sellafield, are far better disposed in terms of disposition. They don't carry the alpha male characteristics, the baggage that very often can get in the way of generating that kind of mutual engagement. There's a lot more reserve there, a lot more of this kind of, as I say, it's very primal behaviours which guys have to overcome to get into the soft skills arena. So to any woman who's aspiring to be a project manager, I say go for it. You've got a lot of advantages in there, and coaches are definitely from a mental health perspective, apart from anything else, what we say is that for a project manager in a given area in Sellafield, the coach should be from outside that area, so that you get safeguarding issues aside. Outside means you can have that off the record conversation with your coach that you might not be able to have with your line management so readily. And it means that for those into psychology, the whole thing about mentalizing, the opportunity to be with somebody who's sympathetic, to articulate what's preying on your mind, the concerns and issues, helps you to work through it and empowers you to go back and then deal with it better. So coaching, definitely a good one to have for all project management.
Thanks, Gordon. And Samantha, I can see you had your hand up as well.
Yes, I think like everybody else was saying, I would say Jo as an example. And she is also someone who's offered mentoring to myself. But I do think that raises an interesting issue of who else is there visible within the organisation doing this, because, you know, she's clearly amazing and offering so much to lots of people. Is that sustainable? One thing that I would say I've struggled with is sometimes seeing people in positions above me who are programme leaders, portfolio managers. They would probably think that they are exhibiting great project leadership. From how I feel, they're taking a strategic glide over it and leaving everything on me to sort out. And as Gordon says, do I have the clout, have the operation ability to make those changes happen? Not always. It has honed my negotiation skills, and sometimes I can do that and find those arguments and push it through. But I am sometimes feeling like, what are these people above me for? In some cases, there's some shining examples and others not so good examples. And a whole organisational challenge is, how do we get everybody to take ownership for what they should be doing and also support the next generation coming through in the way that Jo is one shining example of?
Absolutely, Samantha. Just to echo what you said, for me, you know, I have no hesitation to say that when, you know, I came across the NHS Project Futures initiative, it almost felt like, you know, an oasis in the middle of the desert. And what do I mean by that? I have found myself in much bigger, I'm not gonna name them, NHS organizations, where exactly as you said, I would see very, very senior people actually, you know, being given the responsibility of an SRO, or even worse, if I may say so, a program manager or project manager, and not necessarily exhibiting, you know, the minimum, if I may say so, skill set that they need to have in order to be able to drive forward a project or a program. And it definitely goes back to what you mentioned. What we're trying to do here as an initiative is spread the word out. And bear in mind, we're talking about the biggest employer in the UK, if I'm not mistaken, and one of the biggest in Europe. So there's definitely something in there to consider in terms of this project leadership and, you know, how we're actually doing it, whether we're talking about project or program or portfolio management. And you know, in my viewpoint, there's major room for improvement. So, you know, it's something that everyone, I think, agrees on that. I'm conscious of time. That was a very, very interesting, somehow semi-structured discussion. I'm gonna just mention that there's a very interesting list of resources that the HHA brilliant guys have put together on the NHS Project Futures platform. So you can find there's an online Axelos subscription that you can access for free. Christine, do correct me if I'm saying something inaccurate. There's the PPM toolkit, which is on the Knowledge Hub. There's the obviously, you know, the well-known APM website, a major source of information for anything PPM related. There's the healthcare project delivery community on Knowledge Hub. And you will also find some additional links in terms of some online learning modules that anyone can easily access. And last but not least, there's, I think, a LinkedIn group as well, which is trying to, you know, bring together all of the people within the NHS that are one way or another, involved into any project or program or portfolio management related activities. So thanks everyone for attending this session, and you're welcome to join the remaining sessions of the Compass 2 event, which is, I think the next one is on coaching and mentoring, if I'm not mistaken. So a big thank you to everyone.